What's going on, guys? Back at you with a new Project Explain series. This time I'm doing my fantasy rap project, Barthandelus the Dragon. And you notice I'm wearing the sick merch right there. That's actually the cover for the EP. And if you want any of these shirts, just let me know and I'll give you a price and order you one up. So, so this project was very unique. It's probably the most unique project I've done so far. Um, it really kind of, I don't really know how I got the idea really, because I don't listen to too much rap. I listen to like Flocka, Comethazine, stuff like that. Josiah, stuff like that. And I really like rap and everything, and I wanted to like try it out. So I actually released one rap song like way back in the day, and I got the beat off this app that just had like 3 or 4 beats on it. I think it was like a free version, and it was awful. It was like Kylonics, but before I turned it into like a metal band, it was like a rap project. And yeah, it sounded really bad. If I can find the audio for it, I'll put it up. I'll put it up as a quick clip. If not, then I won't. But it was really bad, and I actually put it out on Facebook for people to listen to. And yeah. So anyway, fast forward probably like, oh man, this is probably like 5 or 6 years. That was back when I was like in high school. So fast forward many years later, I kind of like got bit by the bug again for some reason. I don't remember exactly why or what happened, but for some reason I just really wanted to do it again. But I'm like, I never grew up in the hood or the ghetto. I never seen none of my homies shot. I wasn't poor. I never dealt drugs, never been in jail, nothing like that. And like I couldn't really identify with a lot of the stuff these rappers were really talking about and everything. And I didn't want to come off as like a poser, because that's just weak. And so I'm just like, well, what do I do, But I really like fantasy, like I really like dragons and mystic stuff, like I love Dragon Force, is my favorite band. I like, power metal. I like magic. I like Dio. I like, spells and stuff like that. So I was like, well, maybe I can combine those two and just rap about, dragons, So I came up with the name Barthandelus because when I was in high school, I borrowed Final Fantasy 13 from one of my buddies. And this was like for Xbox 360, so it was like the 3 disc version. So I borrowed it, and there was like that Pope character who turned into like the multi-face thing that could spit all like the elemental attacks, whatever you had to fight. And his name was Barthandelus. And I'm like, wow, that's a really cool name. And so I looked it up, to make sure what it meant, whatever, because I actually put it on a shirt that same year. And it was like the Latinized version of Baldanders, which was like a Germanic god who was symbolic of a the continual change in nature and society, as well as the need to familiar yourself with the common people from another perspective. And I thought that was really cool. So I was like, okay, totally putting that on a shirt, and that's gonna be my rapper name. So I came up with that, and then I was like, okay, so what I want the dragon to look like? What color combination do I want to use? Do I want to use like red and black, or blue and white, or black and white, or like black and gold? Like, what do I want to do? So I actually even settled on purple and gold, just because it looks, the most royal, the most regal, and as you can see, it just really pops. It just really pops. It really looks good, right? Like, all right, purple and gold, cool. So I got one of my coworkers at the time to start on artwork and everything. So then it was just like, okay, well, where do I get beats from? So I started looking on YouTube. I'm like, all right, like these beats are cool, but it was like I wanted something that was like not a beat off YouTube. I wanted something like unique and everything. So I'm like, okay, so I look at these producers and like, oh, you can buy a beat for this much, but give me this much, or if you want to exclusively buy it, it's like $1,500. I'm like, okay, I ain't got money for that. I ain't got like $4,500 to spend on like 3 beats. So I'm like, okay, what do I do? So one of my buddies, who I also worked with at the time, he was really into like dubstep and house music and everything, and I got him into Naruto, and he was making like a Naruto like lo-fi dubsteppy kind of EP. And so I was like, hey man, could you make like some beats for me? And he was like, yeah. And like that's pretty much how it started. He gave me the first beat, which was New Dawn, and then I was like, all right, cool. So I wrote some lyrics to it. He actually called it like trap beat, right? And then so I wrote some lyrics to it, and then he made like the second beat, which ended up being Rumination. And he like each beat was like different. He wanted kind of a different direction for it. So Rumination was more like a lo-fi beat, and he used like a little bit more like guitar than he did in the trap beat and everything, and it was like different vibe and like flowed differently, right? And then the third beat he gave me was the Linkin Park type beat, which ended up being Recommence. And that was like the more metally, new metal kind of, really like industrially sounding kind of one. It was really aggressive, right? So this all started in 2019. So in 2019, he gave me the first beat, and I wrote first set of lyrics, and we recorded. We recorded those, and then we recorded the vocals for the second song, right? After he gave me the second beat, and then COVID hit, right? So COVID hit, and then before COVID, he had actually moved like up north. So now we couldn't really, get together like that and record. So I had to like bounce it back to him, and he was very hard to get a hold of. Like, he's notoriously hard to get a hold of if you don't live in the same city with this guy. So like, he gave me, like he pretty much didn't respond to me for a while, and was kind of like frustrated and everything. So I'm just like, yo. So then I finally got in contact with him, right? And so he was like, okay, well, da, 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 da. So he gave me like the beats. He gave me the third beat, right? And so he was like, well, if you want to continue this, another producer, I'm busy doing this, this, and this, because he went up there and he had a chick, and and he was up there, and so he like moved to a whole new place, got a house and everything. So he was like kind of in the next phase of his life. So he was like, you want to continue this with another producer that I understand? So I was like, okay, I'll try that. So he sent me the beats, right? And he uses Ableton. So he sent me the file and just the stems, not even like the Ableton file, just like the actual stem files, right? And I couldn't open them for some reason, like they just wouldn't open. So he sent them to me like 2 or 3 more times, still couldn't open them, right? So I have him send them to the guy that I was going to do it with, and he couldn't open the stems either. But they both had Ableton, so he just sent him the Ableton file. And then there was like plugins that he didn't have, or cracked versions of the plugins, or like some stem just wouldn't load. And then I was just relaying this back to him. So it was kind of going like back and forth a little bit. So I was like, here, just y'all two communicate. When y'all figure something out, let me know, right? And then like he still couldn't get it figured out, and it was just terrible. And like, because he had the first 2 songs with vocals and everything, right? But the first song he lost the vocals, so I had to redo those, and then the third song, I was still trying to write lyrics and stuff, and like I couldn't like actually record because I didn't get the beat or nothing. So I was just like, man. And then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna totally start from scratch, forget these first 2 songs, boom. So I was gonna, like, the other guy showed me a beat that was really cool, that he was like, I can picture you on this. I'm like, okay, and I really liked the beat. It was like, had some violin in it, and it sounded really fantasy based, and kind of like Renaissance-y, kind of like it's something you'd hear in like a movie about King Arthur, or like on that Merlin TV show or whatever. So I was like, okay, cool, I can vibe with that. And then that never went anywhere. Like, no, absolutely nowhere, dude. Like, I was like, okay, cool, I'll meet up with you, we record. And then he was like, yeah, I'm actually gonna be like out of town like for 2 weeks or whatever. I'm like, okay, cool, we can get back after that. And then he was like, yeah, man, come over and record anytime, but I'm moving, so there's nothing in my house right now. And I'm like, so dude, so what are you talking about? So I couldn't depend on him for anything. So it was just like, it was just not happening. I really wanted to get this out. I don't know why I suddenly wanted to do it so bad again. Maybe because it was just after COVID, and like if like COVID hadn't happened and he wouldn't have moved, we would have done it. But I was just like, dude, I really want to get this done, and it was just not working out with him, and couldn't get in contact with the dude I was originally doing it with. So I was about to scrap this project altogether, man. And it was just like, I told my artist just to like not even worry about it really. and it was just not happening, man. It just every single time I try to do something, just roadblock after roadblock. He moved, is untouchable. Can't get in contact with him. This guy like never hit me back up after he moved or whatever. And like I can't even open the beats or nothing. So it was just awful, dude. It sucked. I was like really, really pissed off. But I was like, okay, maybe I'm just not supposed to be doing this. Whatever. Just bump this project. This isn't just gonna happen. And then so I don't even remember. I really don't actually remember what happened. But somehow me and him got back in contact. And then he was like, yeah, da 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 da. I really don't remember what he said or how we even started talking again. But he was like, yeah, here's the beat, and like I'm just so busy, I need to schedule things out so I could fit you here on my schedule. And we were on the phone for like an hour or two, just like scheduling, getting Google Calendars all set up and everything, like when it released a single, who do artwork or whatever. So yeah, we got back together, got it done. I like re-recorded the vocals for song one a second time because for some reason I think either I sent him to an email he didn't have access to, or like for some reason the email said it sent to me but he didn't get it, so I had to re-record them a third time because I don't know what I did with the original. I think I accidentally didn't save the file or something like that, so I had to re-record the vocals of the first song. Then I recorded like the third song was giving me a lot of issues, like lyrically, because it was just like, do I sing over this part? Do I leave it airy? Do I do screams? Do growls? I wasn't really sure what even to do, as far as like a vocal approach. So I think it took me 3 weeks just trying different ideas and just different lyrics and how to finish off the story and lead it still into like the rest of what the story was gonna be after this trilogy. And I was just like, how do I do this? And then like I sat down. I remember I sat down and wrote the lyrics in 3 minutes. That was just like, oh wow, there they are. It was just like boom. So I wrote the lyrics, then went and recorded them right then, sent them to him, and then so I sent them to him, and then he like makes it took probably about 3 or 4 months for him to mix them. And then he sent me the mixes. I like gave notes and whatever, and he also sent them to a couple other people. And, showed his dad and everything, and then mastered them. And to get it mixed and mastered, and probably took about 3 or 4 months at the least. I think it might have taken a bit longer, but after that, we finally had everything, and I was like, okay, this song is this song is this song is this. I'd like, looked up, different meanings of words and like to really find a good title for it. And I came up with Renaissance, which fits it amazingly, I think. And he thinks it fits it as well. And he really liked all the song titles, especially Recommence. He actually looked up and told me he really liked the meaning, so that was really cool. And, we released it. So there's only 2 pieces of artwork, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about those in this video. So it'll be a project explanation and an art explanation, and instead of a riff explanation, I'll just do like a lyric explanation video for one of the songs. So I'll do that in the next video. But as far as the art, right? So I actually hit the artist up who was working on it originally, and I was like, yo, you still got that file? And she was like, yeah, I still got it. And I was like, all right, cool. Can you do the artwork for me? And so since all of that had happened, she actually become way more professional, had like a brand, a logo, and everything. So she's like, okay, well, this contract, you can do it this way, da-da-da, and this is this much, and then da-da-da-da. So I was like, all right, cool. Well, I ain't got money for that. Most expensive, so I'll do it. So she like emailed me a contract, I signed it, sent it back to her. It was really, really nice and professional. I really, really appreciated that, especially since, like I treat everyone I work with as professional and like to pay them as such and treat them as such, and I have like my own contracts and stuff I've signed before for work I've done. So I was like, this is really cool, really professional. She's really leveled up. I'm proud of her. Good job. So she came up with this artwork right here, which was the artwork I ended up using. There was like another version. There was like 4 versions she started out with sketching, and then she came up with that one. It was like another version that was like a slightly darker purple, but I was like, this version is what I want, right? So she did that. It came out really, really well. Paid her, and that's really, really cool. She's doing great. I'm gonna link her stuff down in the description, as well as the guy who I was working with the beats. She's Maddhaus Studios, he's ShoPaRo, down in the description right there. And then, so, my buddy ShoPaRo, who did the beats, had this friend who I don't remember the name of, but I'll go back and see if he got any social media that he linked me, or if he just told me his name. And if he got any social media, I'll put it down in the description. But he had this friend because I was looking like for single artwork too, and I didn't really want to contact, Maddhaus Studios, because I didn't really think it was like that big of a project, for artwork that grand. So I was like, just like a simple sketch of a dragon. I didn't need nothing like super crazy in detail, like this or anything. So I was like, and plus I needed kind of quick, because we were kind of getting close to the release, and I think we had like 3 weeks before the release, or maybe 2 weeks, and we were like, oh yeah, we still don't have a single artwork. And I was just gonna put the EP artwork, but I was like, no, that's kind of lame. Have a single have the same artwork as a full. So I was like, nah. So he's like, well, I know this guy who does artwork, right? So the guy did a picture of a dragon, right? And so the picture was like a traditional like Chinese dragon, but the guy thought it was like cultural appropriation somehow. So he decided to go with like the way ShoPaRo phrased when he told me, he said he was gonna white people it up. So this is the artwork we ended up going with, and as you know, it's like a gargoyle dragon. So that was like, okay, it's pretty good. Nothing crazy. Something nice and simple, just like a sketch of a dragon. It didn't look too bad. We paid the guy for his artwork, and it looked really good and fit. So that's what we went with. And yeah, that's really it. Not too much of the artwork. There was like a couple of different versions the Maddhaus had, where it was like looking down on the cliff. So I was like, I want him like on a cliff looking at a modern city. So she showed like 4 different perspectives, and I was like, okay, go with that one right there. And yeah, that's how the artwork really came about. Nothing super crazy, nothing insane. There wasn't like a bunch of like da-da-da-da-da. Just like, hey, do you have that file? Boom, there it goes. Sign the contract, pay the money. Boom. Hey, I got this friend who does this. You gotta pay him this. Boom, got it. Boom. So it wasn't anything crazy or anything like that. It wasn't like a huge strenuous process to get the artwork done. It was just the song themselves, just getting everything, because it just took so long and there's so much back and forth. And then once I got the other dude involved I was gonna try to record with, I just made it worse. And I don't think I cried, but there was one point where I was just so frustrated that I just couldn't get it done or even make any progress in it, and having to communicate between the two of them and tell them to communicate, and it was like everything. It was just like, dude, man, it was just so, it was awful, dude. Like, I was so ready to just drop this project altogether, and it was like, it was just really, really bad. But thankfully, patience won out and everything got done. There will be at least 4 more of these EPs focusing on a different elemental dragon, and then I have like a whole like series kind of planned out for it. I mean, this is really good. This could go on for years, the way I'm like plotting out and everything. But yeah, it was probably the most difficult project I've done, just because it took forever for 3 songs for an EP that doesn't even total like 15 or 16 minutes. I think New Dawn is like 3 minutes or something. Rumination's the longest one at like 4 minutes, and then Recommence is like 2 or 3. So this EP is like no longer than 15 minutes, and it took 3 or 4 years to come out. Like, it's just, the whole process was just so frustrating. Just COVID messed everything up, and then he moved, and then the Ableton file, still don't know what's wrong with that, but it was probably the most difficult process for any project I've had so far. It was just so nerve-wracking and frustrating, but it finally came out, and there's more to come. So yeah, next I'll be doing a lyrical breakdown for one of the songs. Not sure which one yet, but can't wait for that. Yeah, so look forward to that, and then after that, look forward to some YMFS project explanations. Thank y'all so much for watching and listening, and if y'all like this video, y'all can like, comment, and subscribe, and rock on.